Hello and welcome to UAT Time within the United Countries Special by First Ukraine. You can find us at the frequencies available at our website firstuat.com. I'm Sergey Velichanskiy.
And I am Olivier Vedrine. UAT Time is dedicated to bring Ukraine and Europe closer to each other by introducing the real Ukraine to the rest of the world.
For the past year and a half, the country, which has always been known for its peacefulness, even in the midst of surrounding local wars in Moldova, Yugoslavia, Georgia and others, has made breaking news with Crimea annexation and the war in Donbass. Is it simply a local conflict, or is it something bigger with greater potential consequences? Today we will try to answer some questions.
Our guest today is Leonid Polyakov. He is the chairman of Expert Board Center for Army, Convention and Disarmament Studies and military experts.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for stopping by for a cup of tea.
And thank you for inviting me.
All right. Now, we have a lot of questions for you, actually for you both, because you are the experts in those issues. For me, as a Ukrainian, as I watched a year and a half ago how things developed in Crimea, I always wondered, and I still don't have a clear answer, why Ukrainian army did not fight against the Russian soldiers during the annexation of Crimea. Why?
For me, the answer is simple. Contingent named Ukrainian army in February 2014 was inherited from previous regime, was guided by previous regime, was paid and financed by previous regime. So it was not actually Ukrainian army you tend to believe in. It was something a little bit different. It was a military contingent which for the previous 4 years was indoctrinated to be friends with Russia, to have joint exercises with Russia, to see Russia as strategic ally, strategic partner, rather than aggressor and enemy. And all of a sudden, overnight, they received provocation, stab in the back. So to respond immediately, certainly they needed some time, but it's not the major reason. The major reason beyond unexpected development was first, they were not prepared militarily to fight. Russian military, first there was no scenario to fight Russian military, but also if we talk about Crimea specifically, there was no scenario to fight ground war with Russia in Crimea. So we didn't have ground force, ground fighting force to fight overwhelming ground invasion from Russia, because if we go towards digits numbers, Russians immediately deployed 6,000 combat-ready fighting force. Ukraine didn't have that. They had numbers, logistics, combat service support, some other depots, well, kind of intelligence, naval force, crews of ships, which mostly were not combat ready and so on. But there was no land force to fight invaders, which day after day were deploying by airlift to Jankoy, to airfield Kirovskaya, in addition to previously deployed Black Sea Fleet Marines and civilian uniformed kind of mercenaries. Highest volunteers brought in big numbers prior to invading date. But so they were not just ready, but last but not least, the major goal was not to fight for Crimea. The major goal was to defend the country. If you remember again, during the Olympic Games in Sochi, continuously in parallel, Russian military was having military exercises in big numbers.
Preparing,
And those already prepared
Yes.
forces, they immediately deployed on the border. And on the 2nd of March, Putin received welcome from his parliament
Yes.
to invade Ukraine specifically.
Yes.
While on the left bank, almost half of Ukraine, we had very, very scarce numbers of land forces. We had some gendarmerie, a little bit air defense, training camps,
Yeah.
but nothing in terms of forces ready to fight aggressive Russian troops.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. I want to hear your view on that because you've observed the situation and you are the expert. What do you think about?
Oh, in my opinion, I am totally agree with our guest. For me, Yanukovych really destroyed the Ukrainian army, and this Ukrainian army, just after Maidan, was not able to face the Russian attack. That was impossible. And remember, in March, we are very few after Maidan. The political situation in Ukraine is very hard. We are thinking to prepare the presidential election. Ukraine, in those times, Ukraine didn't know where Ukraine will go.
Okay.
We were in some anarchy, you know?
Yeah.
And that was in this time, Putin attacked Ukraine because Ukraine was weak.
Yeah.
Because Ukraine was in anarchy because of the political situation.
Okay. All right. But Crimea, basically, yes, Russia says because we invaded it, occupied it, it's in peace because of their action. And look at Donbass, you know, there is war, all those things. So my question would be, is if we look at Donbass situation, people are tired of it, right? People are tired. Some people say, let's stop war. But then some others say, yeah, if we stop war, but the shelling will still continue. What's the solution? Is there a solution in that situation, in the war of Donbass?
The solution is to win the war. The solution is to win the war.
Military way?
Depend on Putin. Depend on Putin. It's not who want to attack Ukraine? Putin.
Yes, but what I'm saying is,
Depend on Putin. Putin now, you know, is doing his best to destroy Ukraine as a state.
but here's my question: is our army ready to fight the full-blown war?
Simple answer is yes, because Ukrainian army is not just a thing in itself. It represents Ukrainian people, and depending on the developments on the ground, from current little bit over 200,000, it can be mobilized to much higher numbers, and I doubt Russia will ever be able to win the war over Ukraine. It can inflict significant damage, but it will never be able to occupy the whole country and win the war against Ukraine.
I am totally agree with this point of view. I think Russia can come to Kiev, but the occupation, that will be a new Afghanistan for Russia.
Much worse. I would say.
Yeah, that's really a partisan war. And Putin knows that he cannot occupy Ukraine.
And Ukraine prepares itself to fight partisan war and to fight against Russian invasion for already over a year.
But here's another issue. A lot of soldiers say that the general command is not efficient. A lot of soldiers, or at least there is a lot of information on not being efficient and in many different, military operations or actions or being prepared in the war in Donbass. But is that so?
There are actually, in my mind, two answers to this enigma. First, indeed, Ukrainian military leadership also is not ideally perfect. First, we inherited what we had from the past, and second, we need time to develop the merit-based appointment or lift for our commanders to grow in their experience, in their knowledge, to educate them and so on. So we have what we have. This is one part. It is not ideal, but it is capable to fight. The second is we have in Ukraine this phenomena, brutal CNN effect, when anyone who wants to say whatever he wants to say will say openly, and whether it is true or not, no one can check. So recently, as you know, we even adopted a law in Ukraine forbidding using the mobile phones on the front line.
Yes, okay, I heard that, yes.
For me, this is a good question, but I think we have to face here a psychological aspect, because a lot of the high command of Ukraine, some general, they were in the same school than the general of the Russian army.
That's true.
They shared the same training. And I think at first they were very surprised that, oh, my friend from this military school is now my enemy. And in psychological mind, it's very difficult to fight against a man that was in the school with you.
They're friends.
That's
with
the first.
family,
Yes, that's a key aspect you have to underline.
Yeah, it was a key aspect at the beginning. Right now, we are beyond that, I think.
Yes, right now, but at the beginning, that can explain why in the Donbass or even in Crimea, everything was not
Especially
very good.
In Crimea,
Now, in this aspect also, I think that I am very optimistic for the Ukrainian army, because now more and more all those chefs of battalion, they were in Donbass, they were in the Balsteve, and some of them are hero, no? And some of them will become general, and some of them will be in the command headquarters, and I am very optimistic because of that.
And what do you think? How long will the war in Donbass last?
That's a good question.
First of all, there is no war.
Are you talking about, are you implying ATO? Anti-terrorist
Legally, we
operation?
have anti-terrorist operation against Russian terrorist illegal military formations.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. No, this is operation against terrorists.
How long does this operation
How
last?
long? Why I needed this longer introduction? Because it depends on Russia.
Yeah, totally agree.
And Russia is still a big country, influential member of UN Security Council, respected in some capitals of the European Union, and so on and so forth, and influential so far. And to deal with these multiple hybrid factors, including information warfare and so on, will probably take time. And given all the complexities, I think the war, the specific hybrid phenomena, in different forms, will take a long time because it includes not only military engagements on the line of separation, but also efforts to undermine Ukraine politically, economically, socially from inside. And at the moment, I think Russian emphasis is not on the fighting in Donbass, but mostly on diversity of activities in Kharkiv, Odessa, Zaporizhia, other places all over Ukraine to achieve destabilizing effect high enough to preclude normal effective developments of Ukraine into European normal state, and not to give Russian population example of the possibility to have successful result of the revolution. This is their major goal. So military side of this war is just one fraction of it.
Yes.
Right now, the major focus is on this terrorist subversive activity.
Okay.
I think we have. I am totally agree. We have two wars. We have this war in the Donbass, this against terrorists, but also we are an unofficial war. So we have to fight some policy of destabilization in Ukraine, in some town of Ukraine, and this is a business of intelligence services. But you have really a very big war in intelligence now, because Putin wants really to put anarchy in Ukraine, to destroy Ukraine. And you have really a war of intelligence, propaganda, destabilization, some extremist group, and also a war in the Donbass. And this is very important. And please, I want to underline a fact that you talk about the volunteers.
Yes.
I know a lot of them, and really, they did a big job, a great job. And please, I don't want to talk about those marginal now who say that they are volunteers. We have 99% of the volunteers in the Donbass of the battalion. They are great and are hero, a lot of them.
Yes. Yes. That's true. There's definitely going to be some speculations, I think, just as it is in any other country and any other war and conflict.
But this is also the policy of destabilization, because those volunteers who are some extremists, some do some bad things, they can be manipulated. They are manipulated.
Well,
for me.
And they of course discredit them.
Yeah, they discredited the battalion. They discredited the volunteers.
Yes, yes. Well, the whole world right now is watching. Though yes, there are several other conflicts going on in the world, but Europe, especially, and the United States are watching all the developments here in Ukraine. Is that because they consider Ukraine as the front line before Europe? So Ukraine is pretty much standing in between of the aggression and invasion into Europe. And if that's the case, what kind of help do we expect from European Union?
From European Union, first of all, Ukrainians expect faster coming to European minds with the nature of this conflict. Because when we say Europeans, we see different representatives of Europe. In some members of the European Union, parliaments and governments didn't even start the process of ratification of the association agreement, which Ukraine and the EU signed over a year ago. We can name these countries, but probably everyone knows Cyprus, Greece, and some other countries, let's say. And at the moment, it turns that Ukraine fights for European values, while some European countries are not ready to sacrifice their small businesses, small interests for declare European values. Of course, it has a rather negative effect on Ukrainians, but not decisive one, thanks God, because first of all, Ukrainians fight for themselves, and we have a critical number of Ukrainian citizens ready to sacrifice their life for their country. And we hope that European countries in critical numbers will show their desire to resist to Russian propaganda, to resist to Russian blackmail, including nuclear blackmail, to resist to Russian corrupt activities in their political parties, including France, of course. and they will unite around their European values.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We don't have much time left. The conversation is quite interesting, but I do have a few urgent questions. Question number one, will the foreigners who fight for Ukraine, on Ukraine territory, against the occupation, will they be given a special status within the Ukrainian forces, or with, you know, in front of the international law?
In my understanding, to a certain extent, they already have a status.
Okay.
No one is harassing them.
Okay.
They are welcome to defend Ukraine. They are not mercenaries opposite to those Russian mercenaries who are fighting for the pay.
Yeah.
But of course, their legal status should be improved and clarified. And I do hope our Parliament will expedite the process of giving them a more clear, more respected status here in Ukraine.
Okay.
I want to underline a fact.
Yes.
You talk about Ukraine. I want to underline a fact when you talk about Ukraine, Russia, and Europe, and about the European Union in this strategy. For a lot of strategists, a lot of experts, Ukraine is the center of the continental Europe. And we know that the person, the government, the organization who will control Ukraine, we will control all the continental Europe. That's why Russia wants to control Ukraine. And this is a fight for the control of all the continental Europe. And I am sure that before the 1st January 2016, Putin will do everything to break Ukraine, because he wants to control this platform with Ukraine in the center of the continental Europe.
Okay, well, we have only 2 minutes left, but my final question, and I would like you to share your final thoughts, but my final question would be, again, there are some moods of people that let's forget the Donbass, let's give up that territory, and let's have peace at last. Is that the belief that has the right to exist, or really it's not gonna, the Russian-backed terrorists will not stop there? What do you think?
You're right. All previous experience of dealing between imperial Russia and peaceful Ukraine supports the point you mentioned. Russia will never have enough.
Okay.
Until it consumes Ukraine, maybe Moldova, maybe even Poland, yes. Who knows?
And the pathway to Crimea, that's
yes.
what...
So it will never end until Russia either becomes democratic or disintegrates.
We have to stop Russian expansion. This is the only way. We have to stop here in Ukraine.
That's
no choice.
That's why we ask for any help possible, because if we're on the front line, we're asking for any help possible from EU, USA, but the real answer, will anybody help us with the fatal, for lethal weapons? Or we need to handle it ourselves, but there's some other ways that the help will come?
Well, you will need another
talk show, yes,
talk show for this specific question.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for coming. Yes, it was quite a very interesting and deep discussion. It was United Country UAT time by First Ukraine. Thanks for joining us for a cup of tea.
Olivier Vedrine and Sergey Velichanskiy were working for you in the studio. Stay with us and we will show you the real Ukraine.
Thank you for being with us. Have a good day and see you soon.